Okay, this is an open meeting of the Berlin Historical Commission, Friday morning, October 13th starting at 9:06 a.m. Those present are Barry
Yep.
and Janet,
Here.
Ellie, and Dan Barton,
Here.
here as our
And June
guest.
Miller.
And June Miller, myself, I'm here, and we're expect to have Lucy soon.
We have four members of the commission present, which constitutes a quorum.
Okay. Okay, well, let's start with Dan, since he's been good to join us this morning.
My pleasure. So it seems like a lot of things have actually been accomplished and are moving forward, which is great. You folks have approved the scope for Tom Lamb. There's been some follow-up communication with him to make sure he's clear on some pointing details for the one wall that wasn't in his original agreement, but he wasn't concerned about that at all. So I think he's off and running, which is great. June, I'm assuming you've already updated the commission on the meeting that you and I had with Kristen to talk about the 1870 Town Hall parking lot and the work to be able to get our accessible route, which never got built in the first place, with the Town Hall project, and the fact that the town may have some monies left over from some COVID-related grants that could be used for access and drainage and what have you. But the big takeaway is I think we've got a mechanism to deal with access and drainage with some help from the town from a financial perspective that can also look a bit more comprehensively at the whole property, including a sidewalk down in front of 1870 and in front of Bullard House. So this is all good news, right? We had left that meeting that June and I attended with Kristen with a directive to ask Ross Associates to put together a revised proposal or agreement to help us with the engineering for that drainage and access. I've not seen that yet, but I have had some communication with Dan, and I think, June, you were on that note that he followed up on. Did you see his response?
Yes.
Where he said he had been busy, but he was going to try to get to something this week if he could. I think it's important that we get him engaged and on board as soon as possible so that we can actually start working through some of those details. I think it's also wonderful that you all as a group have finally reached some closure that the existing door that was put together as the accessible entrance on the east side of the building is what you're going to use as the main entrance. And then we'll look at how some other doors can work, for access if needed. And Barry, I thank you for your thoughts on that east side door and some of the other, prior planning, which had gone into Bullard House, which I think is really important to bring back to the surface because there had already been some thought about, where coats go, where there would be a little gift shop, etc. And I think that's great. What we just need to remember is that we have to create an accessible route to that door from the parking area, around the back of the house. And that's what the charge will be for Ross to help us with. And then we'll figure out what other pathway goes to that door that may not be fully accessible, but that allows visitors to come in from another direction. And that's great. I just want to clarify that the only reason I threw out options that were different than that east side door originally was because I didn't care for the parking that was at one point being looked at in conjunction with that doorway. I thought that having a vehicle, a van, a car, or something, within feet of that door didn't make it a welcoming entrance, although I had no issue with the door itself. So anyways, I think moving forward with that being the main entrance and then figuring out how other spaces in Bullard House are going to work is now our directive to move forward. The question that I wanted to ask just right out of the gate, Barry, if I understood correctly on your thoughts, which were very nicely written, the idea that the annex has that front door that faces the main road, where there's the stone embankment, that we could still use that if a school group or something came in
Yeah.
that didn't need the accessible entry, so to speak, because that back annex space, if we're still planning the bathroom and a little gathering space and a little kitchenette back there, can really be a great spot for, kids to drop backpacks and coats and, what have you.
Perfect.
So that seemed to me to indicate that the idea that we originally had, that annex space in the back did have the kitchen, did have a little bit of gathering space, and had the bathroom, still makes sense to everyone.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Except that we probably put the kitchen, such kitchen as we have in what's been the old kitchen, because then we don't have to extend all the plumbing out to that other end.
Okay.
But it'll be right handy to the same space.
Okay. That's absolutely fine. It wasn't designed, it was there as a concept anyways.
Yeah.
So then, so I feel like we have some closure now on where's our parking, where are we bringing access from? We don't have the details yet, but we know how to do it, right? That back annex portion, what its purpose is going to be. The rest of the house is just going to flow the way we had always talked about. So I feel like we should start jumping into some of the other details for the house itself. What is our plan for the exterior? What is our plan for the windows? What other work needs to be done so that we can start to identify that. If there's any design or plans that need to be put together, so be it. But remember, our mission critical had always been to put together an action plan and then implement it so that we could get the house to be usable as soon as possible, but to understand what the cost was going to be, right? And how we were going to, pull that together. So there's one other
I'd
little...
like to, one piece
Sure.
I'd like to throw in, June, we need to get, the, Ross Associate, the plans, the town hall plans with the sheet that shows the parking lot and ramp that was, in the plans from, the architect on the town hall job.
Yeah, Barry, they actually produced that plan.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So if he has that, he's got a lot of stuff already. He just has to figure out drainage and stuff to go with it.
Yeah, I think that plan is going to tweak. It needs to be tweaked a bit because
Oh yeah,
the parking area was a little bit different, and I think where we want to bring our access down might be a little bit different as well. But it's absolutely a starting place. Go ahead, Joe.
okay.
Are you saying that was a Ross plan? Because Dan Wolf has not been able to find anything other than what he gave us for drainage and the survey worksheet that was just prepared a few months ago.
It was definitely a Ross plan.
Yeah,
And I believe we already have it in the Dropbox.
Well,
Oh.
it's in the stuff in the Dropbox from
From
Austin?
Austin.
architect.
From
From
Austin.
Austin, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not a separate thing.
It's
No,
not a
it's
separate
not
thing. If I'm remembering correctly, and Barry, you may remember this better than I. We put it into the 1870 project as a design alternate, as a bid alternate, and
Yeah.
so we knew what the value was at the time, but we didn't implement. But
That's
I
right.
believe that the engineering design that was in Austin's plan was just an alternative site plan from Ross Associates.
I think it
Okay.
is. And
So
but
do I.
if he has that, it'll get him going better. If he hasn't found it in Ross's own stuff, it will be helpful to get him going, I think.
Yeah. At some point, if he needs it, I can go back into Dropbox and find and forward it to him.
Mm.
So
Well, maybe he
so-
misunderstood what I was asking to.
So
Yeah.
there's one other piece here, which is the septic system, and the actual work that needs to be done on that in order to support the use that's going to be in Bullard House versus what we don't need to do. I understand that there's some talk about an additional tank. There was some talk about the sloping of a pipe. There was some, in my opinion, ridiculous banter going on as to whether, we could serve coffee and tea inside Bullard House, which I don't think that anyone should be losing any sleep over. It's not going to be a major breach of Board of Health regulations. So we'll deal with that, at some point in the future. But I'm assuming that the septic at the moment is going to follow its own pathway. We know that it'll get resolved. We'll see what the options are. And I don't think that should at this point prevent us from moving forward with the rest of the effort. Unless anyone disagrees.
No, I think that's how we understand it also.
Good. And I did throw out that question, as to whether, there was any opportunity to take the existing tank and just change the size of it, because I think that you could do some regrading if it was sitting up higher, and if you had to have a pump, you'd have a pump. But anyways, let's let the people that are experts in that area continue to march forward and just spoon feed information back as we need it for the rest of the site planning. And what's good is that Ross is involved with that. So what I'd like to do to help at this point, if it makes sense, is to really start digging into what else we need to design or address relative to layout, preservation, maintenance of Bullard House. Because I feel like we're already dealing with the bottom at the moment, the foundation. And as Tom is developing his plans and his details, we will marry that up to what we need to deal with relative to drainage, both around the foundation and on the site. And now I think we can start really talking about what needs to be done for Bullard House. What type of design work do we need to do? And Janet, I think this is a great segue into your list of just some initial thoughts on interior spaces, and how do those spaces want to look and feel, and what work needs to be done in order to achieve the goals that you had originally set out for, for the mission and purpose of Bullard House. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we also need to add insulation. Insulation is another matter. I mean, there's some areas that we've reconstructed and put insulation in, but the rest of it is not, and we really need to include that. And we had previous recommendation, which I think is right, to do it with a type that I can't say the right words for. I want to say it's some kind of new cellulose or something or other insulation,
Okay.
but it's not whatever we put in from now on is not going to be pink fiberglass. And,
yes, I agree with that. Yeah, and I'm a
and-
huge fan of mineral wool over fiberglass anyways. Cellulose has the ability, that it can be blown in if need be. And there may be more than one insulation approaches that we take there in order to get it to perform a little bit better. And I'm always concerned with, old structures, that we not make them so tight that they're not breathing, or that we're, creating a moisture problem. So a thought on that I'll just toss out, and I don't know whether we would be eligible, but I can't see why we wouldn't. At Alyssa's and my house in Newburyport, we just had an assessment done by Mass Save, and Mass Save came out, and in our house, I think they did about $3,500 worth of insulation work, and it cost me and Alyssa $400.
Wow.
So
We could explore that.
I can't imagine that there's any guideline that says that we can't do that on a house that's owned by the town, especially if we're going to be conditioning the air so that we can use it. So I don't know if there's an ability to call and get a Mass Save. It cost us absolutely nothing to have an individual, make an appointment and come out and walk through and make recommendations. And at the very least, even if we aren't eligible for the program, let's get the recommendations from somebody who knows insulation in old properties, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So
Yeah, I think that's a fine idea, and that it should get us off dead center on that one.
Mhm.
so
I can pursue that. Yeah.
So insulation, I think, is a great idea, and we also, that ties hand in hand. And I was going to bring up our mechanical system. We previously, if you remember, had Tom Lamb meet up with a group that we've worked with, which is Greenleaf Construction. And there was another site contractor that came out, and they were just looking at some of the logistics of doing the work in the basement for the foundation.
Yeah.
And one thing that was discussed is that in order to do the work in the foundation, your existing boiler needs to come out of there. It needs to, or at least be relocated, and moved around. And the idea had been tossed out, I think, by Greenleaf. Do we want to put a combustion boiler back in there? Or do we want to change to a different kind of a system, like a heat pump system? So
we've actually made some progress on that. We had one contractor in, and we've got a feeler out for another one in regard to heat pump stuff. And what we came up with is probably, chances are we're going to have to put in a different furnace if we want to keep the oil. And we would probably do that at least as a backup, and that we would get a heat pump arrangement that will put the heat from it into the same ductwork system, so that we would be using our same ductwork for heating and cooling with heat pump. And then if it gets too cold for the heat pump, or if something goes wrong with the heat pump, we've still got the oil backup to heat in the winter. And that's what we were talking about with that individual. And we've got another one coming to talk to. So we're trying to make some progress on that decision.
The combination.
A lot of the ductwork. Yeah.
The combination heat pump and oil furnace was an option that was explained to us by Paul Maney from Northborough Oil. And it seems like a desirable way to deal with the heating and cooling.
Sure. If it's a ductwork based system, even if the power is out or there's a problem with the power, the oil's still not going to work, right? Because you need the fans.
That's correct.
in order to circulate it. So, if there's something critical there, then at some point in time, you may want to think about a little generator. But I'm not sure that we have, the concern with a tremendous amount of plumbing and other things that, if it got cold for a spell of a few days, that we'd have something, that's a major concern. But it sounds absolutely fine. What we ended up doing with our project through Mass Save is we ended up putting a heat pump system in that is also ducted. So we don't have any of those wall units or line sets running all over the place to wall units. We have a ducted system where there's, a heat pump air handler, if you will, one in the attic and another one in the basement. It's all ducted and, it works. I also believe that the technology and the heat pumps now, other than maybe a handful of very, very cold days, I think that they can keep up with the demand significantly better than they used to. And in the case of Bullard House, if in the coldest days of the winter, if you were only able to get it up to 62 instead of 68, that's not the end of the world, right? So no one's walking through in their underwear to get to the shower, and feeling frigid. So
an awful lot of the time it sits at 55 if there's nobody there. So
right. But I think that
I was just wondering about your take on having both the oil furnace and the heat pump. In your situation, you were talking about just using heat pumps. Yeah,
we used only heat pumps. So Janet, I'm going to also be honest that when you're going through the Mass Save program, this was not inexpensive in a house built in the 1790s in Newburyport to do this project. And, so the whole project was about $30,000. And the Mass Save program was offering us $10,000 rebate if we were fully converting to the heat pump system. So the way the paperwork and the forms are, I really wanted to get the whole $10,000. So we opted to pull out our natural gas furnace. Now, our natural gas boiler that was there was old and inefficient. So if we had decided to keep it, we might have ended up replacing it, and it would have been like doing two projects. So we opted for, let's give the heat pumps a try. And if there are a handful of days where it's a little bit cooler, but we're not freezing, pipes aren't freezing, we were okay with that. So given that no one is officially living at Bullard, if the engineers who designed the system feel as though the heat pumps will always be able to accommodate the demand, and that it may struggle and be less efficient on a handful of days, and you don't need to do any other combustion system, that's a call you'll all have to make. If you don't have a high hot water demand there at all, right?
No.
And
it's not allowed.
right. And, there's a huge push to get away from combustion, for environmental purposes. But I'm not the expert on that. I'd like to hear the reasoning as to why, keeping both systems was advisable. Clearly, if somebody is selling oil,
Yes,
they
right.
want you to have an oil appliance, right?
And he
Because
said
the-
that too when he was
Yes, he
discussing
did.
that.
Yes.
No, he
And-
wrote
The one
Right.
thing that I
We're-
would, one thing that he mentioned, and he also sells heat pumps. In fact, he installed the heat pump in our
Mhm.
building up back for us.
Yeah.
And so, but the other piece that he mentioned is from the point of view of service, because the heat pump things, if they go not working well, sometimes it's very hard to get the parts or whatever to do the repair, and takes a considerable period of time.
Mhm.
Whereas most of the time with the oil stuff, if they got to fix it, they can fix it on the spot, or within a day or so.
Right.
And so that was part of the thing that we were concerned that we were going with in discussing that subject. But as I
Mhm.
said, we have another contractor coming to see us one of these days to
The other one
discuss the
is,
heat pump thing.
yeah, it's Viking Mechanical, which, and they are the town's HVAC servicer. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's taking so long for him to come, but I'll put out another feeler for that.
And again, I would throw out, if there's an ability, I was talking to them as a residential, owner, but if there's an ability to get Mass Save in, it costs nothing, and they'll make some great recommendations. Let them weigh in on that as well. I'm never against having the belt and suspenders approach. I just, given how we're using the house, I also, I want to be realistic and reasonable. But, get the feedback. And as I said, if there's an ability that, you can get $10,000 off of the heat pump system, to me as a homeowner and as the one footing the bill personally, it was definitely worth it. It was explained to me that we could maintain our combustion appliance as a backup, but it required some sort of an interface switching so that it couldn't come on unless certain conditions, were being met. And, but when I talked that through with the contractors who were doing our work, they said, yes, you're going to do that, but you are going to forego the maximum rebate that you would get for Mass Save. And so you may get 7,500 instead of 10,000. And, Alyssa and I we were going for the 10,000.
Mhm.
So anyways,
Thank
but
you.
I think it's great that you're continuing to look at that, because as we're doing the foundation work, it'd be great to know what we want to put back or not put back. And, we do have tight access getting down into that basement. So also to be intentional on how much space we need for equipment, how we're getting the equipment down there. Are we going to actually create some sort of a temporary opening into the basement from above during the foundation work, because it'll serve us well with concrete and other things that can also be doubled up for, mechanical access. That's something we should think through once we know what's going down there and where it should be replaced. So going back upstairs and to the exterior, I think that we were all from the get-go of this embracing the fact that Bullard House, because of the way that it evolved over time, in terms of the add-ons and all that, could be somewhat, I use the word whimsical in, how we approach its exterior, right? That there are different windows, they don't always align. There are different elements from different time frames. I always rather liked that idea because it told the story, right?
Yep.
And similarly, that on the interior, different spaces would be set up, perhaps, with a different stylistic approach or a different time frame. And again, I liked that. It became the backdrop for all sorts of things that would happen in there, in terms of display and presentation and honoring the community. Is that still something that resonates with the group, that makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
does with me, certainly. Yeah.
Great. So is it time for us to now start drawing up each one of these spaces and coming up with the menu of the work that needs to be done in order to put it into its desired state? Do that all throughout the inside of the house, and then also develop a plan for the exterior and make a decision when something's going to be preserved versus is something going to be replaced, and what, if it does get replaced, what's it getting replaced with? That to me is our mission at this point, so that we can scope it, understand the cost, and then figure out how it falls into an implementation plan.
One of the
Dan,
things that,
Go.
I just wanted to ask if this starts to, if this is still part of master planning, or is this is actual design? So
It is, and June, I haven't looked at exactly how we're doing with the budget, but I can't imagine we're doing too badly.
no, it's good. I've had a conversation with Kristen because I didn't want to consider the Ross work, and I didn't really even want to consider the septic work part of the master planning. And she said
Correct.
she would think about that. And
Okay.
if that's the case, then we do have about 4,000 maybe left in the master planning
Mhm.
bucket. Which can be amended. I'm sure that
Mhm.
if we come up close, we can figure out a way to get a little more too.
Okay. So, yes, I do think it's design. I don't think we're at the point where we're putting together construction documents, but I would like to start scoping out interior and exterior work that needs to be done, aside from the basement, foundation work, because I think that that's how, keeping our eyes on the goal of being able to apply for grants at some point in time, or write something to Mass Historic. We really need to understand what it is that we're proposing to do and why, right? And I believe that there's the infrastructure piece, which we've talked about foundation, we've talked about septic, Barry brought up insulation, there's the mechanical, there's all that infrastructure work, but most of that's the stuff that you don't see. We just have to do it. I'm now talking to.
What about the stairs? I think that we've talked about the two accesses to the upstairs are not neither one of them are very user friendly. I
Right.
don't know how we can modify that and not destroy the house, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
And we're not
So,
looking to make it handicapped accessible, but we would like to be able to have people go up to the ballroom and do some of that.
right. So, the accessibility piece is always challenging, because, and we've talked about that. We're not going to install an elevator or Bullard House. So, I look at it like going to the, if anyone's been to the House of Seven Gables in Salem, there's some funky stairs in that house and in a lot of old historic houses. If there's a desire to reconstruct one staircase to make it a bit more code compliant or a bit easier to travel along, that's something we can absolutely look at and talk about. I thought that from earlier discussions, we were going to focus on the main level to begin with, and defer a bit how we were dealing with the second floor. But maybe there's a change in the thinking on that. So let's talk that through.
So,
We have talked a lot about stairs in the past and going back some years. And the corner stairway, that's such a crazy round the barn thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about pulling that out and rebuilding it into at least something more closer to a code stairway. It currently takes a big chunk out of the room downstairs as well as
It
the room
does.
upstairs. And I think that while we might have to increase the size of the hole in some other direction to get, to make that work, I think we could come up with a better design for that. I've kind of let that one lay for a while lately because we've got so many other things on our bucket, but
Yeah.
we can look at a design for that and chat about what we might do there instead. The stairway that's there was created probably in the 1940s.
Correct.
And there had been a stairway in that corner, but it was, it had rises of, like 12 and 13 inches. And it was more like going up a ladder than a stairway. And
It's not a bad stair, Barry.
No,
It really isn't. We've all been up and down it.
and we can put rails on it.
Yeah.
We can put a rail on it, which would obviously help it a lot. So it's something to figure out, I don't know.
My vision, and this is what's in my head, and we'll see if it resonates with anyone, was that things were going to happen in stages. We were only going to have so much money. And to me, what was mission critical was actually being able to open Bullard House to the public. And my thought had been, if we do a bang up job on the exterior and on the main level, and then we get it open, that the second floor becomes a later phase, and that it's something that we fund separately. We're able to write grants for it when we're already up and running and thriving, with an operation on the main floor, but that, we're looking at it in stages. This has to make sense to all of you. But to me, the sooner we can actually take the resource and allow people to come into it and experience it, the better off we are, in terms of, I think everything from credibility with the town, asking for money, in terms of, biting off what we can actually chew, and, future, planning and master planning. So I also think that for the time being, as we're getting the main level operational, having that second floor space as a bit of staging isn't bad, right? I mean, there's lots of, we've all been in old homes or house museums or where there are areas that you can't go.
That's right.
And as I had suggested originally, there may be a space on the first floor that is dedicated to some photographs and history of second floor spaces that we're not allowing people into as of yet.
Dan, I think that's a great idea. And some of our energy and perhaps some of our money can go into how we can use video and many other things that I'm not even aware of that museums do to bring people in to the space, even though
Yeah.
they can't get there.
Yeah.
And that could happen at the same time or around the time of the downstairs.
Right. And I also, I had also felt, I don't think that that anyone at the state level would force us into second floor accessibility, you know, given the scale, the nature, the historic, factors. But I do believe that there's a process there because it's a town-owned resource. And to me, when we want to have second floor space be accessed by our visitors, I believe we need to be going through the Mass Architectural Access Board for a waiver so that we actually have the documentation that we've, you know, here's what we've been able to accomplish relative to accessibility. Yes, we're going to reconstruct a stair, we're going to put in railings, and we're going to, I think that's a whole piece in and of itself. And again, and you all can disagree, I just feel as though it's already a lot to tackle to get the foundation done, to get the site done, and to get our first floor usable. And if we can accomplish that and then be in a place where we could be really taking a hard look at, you know, what do we need to change in order to get upstairs, and what do we need to do up there in terms of scope of work, you know, getting spaces ready? What do we need to do in terms of filing with the state for an access variance? You know, I feel like we could write, you know, a grant application just to do that. Or we'd even have, you know, that much more credibility when we say to the town at a town meeting, look what we've done already. Now we're ready to grow and expand.
So Dan, are you still?
Lucy?
Is that Lucy?
Hey, Lucy.
Dan, this is Lucy. Are you so that we can proceed with working on the interior of the building as the exterior work is being done? Do we have to, do we
Go
have
ahead.
to have all the, the parking available before we start working on the interior of the building?
No.
Yeah, so I don't think it has to be available. I think we have to have a plan that we're going to implement. You know, to me, we're not opening it up to the public until we have fixed our foundation, until we've provided access and parking and dealt with the drainage, and until we do enough work on the interior that it's, you know, safe and ready for people to walk through it, right? And then there's that, you know, maybe some insulation and mechanical and all that that's, you know, also part of it. Then I think we're opening it up to the public. So to me, Lucy, we're doing all of these things, you know, in conjunction with one another, and you know, they're different balls that are in the air, but at some point they're all going to come back and be collected in the same bucket.
Okay, that was my question. Is it can be consecutive? It does not. I mean, it does not have to be consecutive. It can be happening at the same time.
Yes, and I think
okay, that's good.
You know, my vision was, you know, we were going to be dealing with foundation and drainage and access at a very similar time frame.
Yeah,
right.
Great.
And somewhat hand in hand. And then, you know, likely once you're done making a mess underneath and around, you know, you start doing some of the interior and exterior work on the actual house. And I'm not saying that we do nothing upstairs, because as we already brought up, there's insulation, there's mechanical, you know, we may be doing some of that infrastructure work. I just don't see us readying the second floor for visitors to walk through.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
First floor definitely needs to come first.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Getting open and getting so people can see what it's all about and what it's like and can come in and learn there makes all the difference in the world for the project to continue later with
exactly. And at the same time, Barry, you know, for someone who's never been in there or doesn't know a lot about it, you would like part of the exhibit to, pay tribute to the fact that, there was a ballroom here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and you go up there and you don't expect it, right? You don't expect the ceiling to be doing what it's doing or the style to change the way that it does. It's really cool. But to me, that's not phase one. Right. So, with the time we have left, my concern was leading up to today's conversation, we've been trying to address a lot of things that we knew needed to be addressed. And we've rather turned our back on, what does the Bullard House look and feel like? The actual space that we're bringing people into. And I feel like we've moved forward enough in these other areas. And while there's still work to be done in each of them, I think it's time to bring ourselves back to the space and the building on the outside to put together a plan. Is that making sense to people?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
And my hope was that between now and the end of the year, we could bring that to a level where we know what our objectives are, and that in each one of the areas, whether it be, exterior or interior spaces for exhibits or the bathroom, we know what our scope is. We know what needs to be done in each one of those areas. So in order to, if that makes sense to everyone, in order to accomplish it, this is where I come back to something that we talked about a while ago, which is that we need to have decent existing conditions, plans, and elevations of the building that we can work off of. I'm hoping that maybe you all can help with that. It's easy for us to do drafting work, to get the plans and the elevations into the computer. What takes some time is the measurements in order to be able to make sure that we're doing that accurately. And at the same time, I think if we drew up 4 exterior elevations of the house and something were an inch off, I don't think it's going to matter, right? Because any work you're doing, for instance, if you ordered a window, I would ask our contractor to come and measure, right? To measure the opening and double check and triple check, the old adage, right? Measure twice, cut once. So I feel like we can get the information onto drawings, even if there's, some discrepancy or something. If there's something we're aware of that's a discrepancy, we should highlight it and note it on the drawing. But at the end of the day, we draw in a computer straight lines typically. And you look at the front elevation of Bullard House, there's probably a couple of things that aren't straight lines and aren't right angles, right?
A couple.
Yeah, a couple.
Just a handful. Just a hand. So you know what I'm getting at? So I think that, if you all can help a little bit, or, if need be, we'll send somebody from the office. I'm just being mindful of, budget and timing and everything. But my goal, I would really love it if by the end of October, we had floor plans and elevations in the computer, in a file that we can work off of to create some diagrams and some proposed plans. Because then I think we have November and December for us to work through some of the details. And my vision for the end of the year would be that at the end of the year, we have a site plan that's been, with the help of Ross and with input from us from a design perspective and from you all, from a programmatic, we have a site plan where we know everything that we're planning to do. It's a patio at this door. It's the accessible route coming down from here. It's drainage in this area. We've scoped it out and we know what we're doing on the site. Inside, on the exterior of the building, we have 4 elevations, and on those elevations, we know this side is getting new siding. It's getting 1 window replaced. It's getting the door that's restored. I'm making this up as we go along, but you know what I'm getting at. That it's on the diagram and it's very clear. And even if it's clear with just an arrow and a, number 1 in a circle, and it says what that scope is. Right. So anyone can look at it and we see what the scope is. And the same thing, we go into the inside, and in every single space, we know, this room, the existing wallpaper is remaining. We're going to, not touch the trim. We're going to refinish the floor. We're going to, whatever it is. I want to scope that all the way through. If we are, and then I think that there's an infrastructure piece that's going to be talking about insulation and mechanical and all that. We'll see how we develop that. But I think if we can get to the end of the year and have that action plan coupled with the site plan that I already mentioned, the foundation work that Tom Lamb has already specified, now I feel like we're in a place where we can go talk to some contractors for work that we need to do on the site and in the basement for the foundation. And we can make a decision, at that point, do we go out and do a selection process because we need to bring in an architect to do the full set of plans to this scope, or is what we have enough that we can actually bite off little bits at a time and, get the work done, and put out a request for proposal to do, exterior siding and preservation and painting, do another one for, interior work. I don't know the answer to that yet, but I want to be in a place where we've now put into one package everything that, the scope of everything we're trying to do. I also believe that without having, every single detail resolved, we may at that point in time, Janet, be able to start talking about, applying for a grant, or at least start some conversations in a meaningful way, because we understand what it is that we're asking for.
Some of the data that you're talking about for the rooms is already in our preservation plan,
Okay.
at least in a rudimentary form. And I realized after our last meeting that we needed to pull that stuff out more specifically into some stuff for each room and so on, so that we can proceed to produce what you're talking about. And so I'll try to work on doing that. And I'd hoped to get some of it done for this meeting, but it didn't work out to happen. So we'll try to work on that, and just to try to, at least get started on the specifics of things that we know we have to do in different places. The outside of the house, the areas that still have old clapboards, and they're not ancient clapboards. They're probably 1940s clapboards.
Right.
Because they've got black paper behind them. And but the end that we did the new clapboards on, that's paint has stuck to it and it looks great. And it's been untouched for several years longer than a couple of the other sides that we've fixed up and repainted and so forth. And it just wears out so badly on the old clapboards. So we really need to replace them so that they'll hold paint better. And in the process of that, that can be done in the process with the insulation work.
Okay, excellent. So
some of those things I'll try to work on codifying things we know about or think we know about now, and maybe that'll save us some time with what
that's fantastic. Because Barry, I mean, I just, this morning I read your note on the entry, and you may have told me in the past, but all of a sudden I'm hearing, little gift shop, place for coats, it's already been thought about. And this is, what we should be memorializing in one place instead of in multiple. So what I'd like to do, I think from the information that I have from, that have come in over time in bits and pieces, I'd like to take what I have for exterior elevations and I have for plans, and I know they're just, a PDF or something, and put together a little packet to give back to the commission, where I'll show where I want to get dimensions and what information we're looking for. And if you all feel like you can do this, great. if you want, at that point, when I send it to you, you say, oh, this is more than what we want to do. You want me to get somebody from my office to go there? We can make that decision, at that point in time. But I'd really love to get you that little package, beginning part of next week. And as I said, if we can spend a week and a half, gathering information, and then a week to put together, a clean set of documents, then we can meet to start scoping things out.
I did a whole set of measurements on the rooms and the size of them and all that some years ago, and in fact that existing floor plan was made from those.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I can if I can find that paper, that I can make that into something that's a little easier to follow, and we can.
Okay.
We'll have some of that done, and we'll work. We can work on the front. I mean, the front of the house, for instance. We can work on that and measure the distances between the windows and the size of all of that and all that, so that we can produce a sketch of that for you to work from.
Yeah, I'm going to open up for a second. Let's see if this works. You all seen my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's a floor plan diagram. I made this by tracing on top of something that Barry, I think, may have been from when the accessible entrance was put in.
Yeah.
And I didn't have all of it. And of course, with a floor plan, again, nothing's perfectly square there. So, you make some decisions and you actually, you get lines to close. But, I'd like to be able to have a clean floor plan for the first floor, the second floor, the basement. I'd like to have a roof plan, and I'd like to have all 4 elevations of the house.
Yeah.
So that we can then turn.
The one thing that's really off on this particular plan,
Yes.
and it was on the other thing, it's right where the hall, where it says number 5 hall. And that shows there's 2 different ways that it sort of shows there. That space, that closet right below the word hall is only back to the spot that
It's like this, right?
Yeah, and the wall should reflect that.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned that before, and I think that's why I had that square that was there.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's off there.
Right.
Dan,
one of the
just for my notes here as the clerk, the first thing you want is clear floor plan for each floor. What was the second thing?
Oh, yeah. So, Janet, what I want to make sure we have a floor plan that's accurate for the first floor and second floor.
Yeah.
For the basement, I'd like a roof plan.
The roof plan, right? Okay.
And then I'd like all 4 outside elevations.
Thank you.
And I believe, and I'm not going to spend time looking for it right now with just a couple minutes left, but I believe that we have some 8.5 by 11, maybe old hand-drawn elevations that are not 100% accurate, but they were done at some point in time. And I know I had a floor plan that may have been computer generated, or at least part of it was for the accessible entry, but I don't think it had the entire house.
No, didn't have the whole house.
And for the second floor, I know I have a diagram, but I don't remember if it's accurate. I remember it from one of our very first meetings. We were playing with that diagram because we were labeling rooms as to what they used to be, at one point in time. Anyways, I'll cull all of that together and show where, we're trying to get information.
Right.
And we're not starting from absolute scratch because, the diagram you're looking at right here on the screen, I already drew that in AutoCAD, as a place to start. Yeah. And as I said, if something on here is an inch off, it's not going to really matter at this stage of the game. The only time that's going to really matter is when you're trying to do something that's got a critical dimension. For instance, creating the accessible bathroom, it needs to work, needs to meet code. So when you're working in an old building on an old plan that may have some quirkiness to it, you'll put in, this dimension needs to be a minimum of 60 inches. If it ends up being 61.5, that's great. But if it ended up being 52, we have a problem. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we'll label it that way.
I think this is a great way forward, Dan. I will be away for a little while next week, but I'll be back definitely by Friday.
Okay.
Jonathan Naidu is coming on Friday to take measurements of the foundation. He is from Tom's company,
Okay.
TF Moran.
Yep, I know him. Yep.
And maybe we can get the measurements from him for that,
Yes.
for our plan.
So
Oh, the basement. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, maybe.
That's a
what
hard
I'd
place
like,
to
like
measure.
I said, I'm hoping that I can give you a little bit of a packet that has a whole bunch of lines in it that are just missing the number, but you can write right on it. And if
Yeah.
it starts getting busy looking, and you have 2 sheets of the same elevation or
Yeah.
2 sheets of the same, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But if I can send that to you all as a plan, as a little assignment, you fill in what you can and what you can't. We'll come up with a plan B. But I have a feeling that between all of you, this is probably no more than, plan an hour and a half meeting there. And if you split up into groups, we probably just get it
To
done.
manage. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, that it's the weather's gonna, for right now, it's the perfect time to do it. It's not too hot,
Right.
you'd be outside looking at the foliage, but a month from now, we may feel differently about
Yeah.
standing outside and looking at it. And again, it's not going to matter if there's a slight discrepancy. And at the same time, what we'll also do is we'll get current photographs of all 4 elevations of the house, and anything else that we think is unique or a little quirky that we want to make sure to capture properly in the drawing. So, and then
There's lots of those.
right. So I would say that once we have those plans together, then I think we really should try to set up a bunch of meetings where we're getting together at the latest every other week to move this forward. So it inches forward so that we get to where we need to get to at the end of the year. And on a side or parallel plane between you and me, June, let's stay on top of Ross.
Yes.
Because we need to get that done. And then you all stay on top of what you need to stay on top of relative to the septic. And I will continue to stay in touch with Tom, or we'll all stay in touch with Tom. I'm not worried about them. I know they'll get it done.
Yeah, one of the things that we'll be concerned with is removing the furnace and the oil tank and such, and some of a good part of the ductwork, because it's right against the front wall where they have to work.
Right.
And those things, we want to figure out to time that appropriately so that we have it out of the way when it needs to be, but we don't do it before that, because, we don't want to go through half the winter that we aren't even doing anything down there and have no heat in the house because of that. So we just want to figure out how to phase that business so that it'll be sensible.
Yeah, makes sense. And is there, I don't know what the capacity is of that existing boiler. Is there any way that the boiler itself can stay there and there's just two ducts, there's just a supply and a return, but we've got them fished up, to condition the house upstairs, but it can stay in place because it's really all the ductwork that we're moving out of the way. And it may not be practical, but it's something to
we've asked for an estimate from Northborough Oil for the removal of the oil tank and the furnace.
Yeah.
And I guess on Friday I could perhaps ask the Jonathan what part of the ductwork should be removed in order for them to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I can even ask him, is there a way to not to take everything that we've been told we have to remove? I can ask him that too. Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like
Is it
we've-
appropriate to ask him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a feeling that given the amount of space that's down there, he's going to say, "I think it all needs to be removed."
Yeah, well, that's what,
Right.
that's what we've been told, yeah.
Yeah.
And the furnace is questionable anyway because it's starting to rust at the bottom. So
Yeah. So I can't help but wonder, is there actually, a plan that we just are putting in some sort of temporary heat on the first floor to keep it conditioned and, safe and usable. And it's a temporary condition. That it's even some equipment that's rented or,
Oh,
You know, the
Yeah.
big thing was we didn't want to take all of that out and then have it sit for 3 years before we can put it back in.
I hear you.
And so because then we're going to have peeling paint all over the inside and everything else. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's
And
one
which
win-
we
if
don't.
it's one winter that it's cold, it's probably going to be okay. But if we go
Yeah.
past that, it's a bigger problem.
Well, the other reality, Barry, I mean, as we're talking this through, I think it's pretty realistic at this point that the very best we'd be able to do is having the foundation repair work start in the spring, right?
Probably, yeah.
So maybe it doesn't get pulled out.
Yeah.
until the end of the
Until-
winter.
Until the worst
yeah.
of the winter is over.
Exactly. I mean, because at the
The worst of the
if
weather.
on March 1st you decided to pull things out, you're not going to have a critical condition there.
No.
So and doesn't that also buy a little bit of time to get the right price and to get the right path moving forward on that? So
Okay.
just a thought.
That's
All right, I'm
helpful.
going to need to run, and
Okay.
hopefully we accomplish something in a positive way for everyone today.
yeah, I'll say.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So June, if you're going to be out,
I'll work on Ross.
no, but if you're out for a little bit, when I put together, I'll try to do it Monday. It may not be till Tuesday. My plans and things that I, has all the dimensions I want you to take. Shall I send it to Barry or Janet or Ellie?
Well, you can, I can receive it, because I'll have email access, but if you
Okay.
want to send it.
Why don't I
it
just
could be
send
sent-
it
It could be sent to all of us.
I think it can be sent to all of you. The reality is we don't want to engage in any discussion because that violates open meeting law. But I
Yeah.
think I can send you information and just says, as we discussed, here's what I want you to work on. Talk to you all soon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
And-
I'll do that.
And we could, if people are willing, we could work on it on Friday. If that's not too soon for everyone.
It's great. I'll let you all figure that out. All right. I'm going to run.
Nice
Take
to
care,
see you.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
A lot of this measuring business and stuff can easily be done by 2 people at a time so that we don't have to post meetings and all, Just as
Ellie
well
and
for
I-
us.
Ellie, you and I are good at measuring things. Remember when we went through and
Yes.
measured all the furniture and yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Lucy, are you
Okay,
there?
it's-
I'm here. You just
Oh,
can't
good.
see my picture.
Just
I'm here.
can't see you. But do
We
you
haven't
want to?
forgotten you.
Do you want to just summarize quickly what we've been tasked with, or do you feel
would be
you
good.
understand that and want to go forward with the regular meeting?
I think it
we
would be a
can
good
go with
idea
the
to
meeting.
summarize.
I couldn't hear.
I think it would be a good idea to summarize quickly.
To summarize. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the upshot, well, the result of the discussion today is that Dan will send a packet, and that will allow us to give him information, basic information that he needs without sending someone from his company to do it. And that would include measurements, floor plans, and as Barry mentioned, we have something we can use already to check against any new measurements that we take. We need that for the roof, the first floor, second floor, basement, and we need 4 elevations. And the elevations, that's something that I need to think about. I would need to, I think we need to look at what we already have on the survey worksheet to help us with that.
Well, I think I'll just go take some new pictures for elevations and see what that looks like. See if there's something more that we need beyond that. There will have to be additional ones because a good picture of the front of the house is not really going to show the annex very well. So, so a couple of those things will have to be, a couple of 2 or 3 extra photos. But I don't know why that is not right. And for that matter, some of what Marty took last week will actually be helpful.
Yeah, well, we actually have perimeter photographs from 2 years ago, but there's no reason why they can't be, he can do it, he can help. I'm sure that he would be happy to help us with that too.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I forgot in the discussion?
During the meeting, you mean?
I think most of the rest of it is already in progress, or else it's in somebody else's hand. And the biggie is we've also got to keep after a couple of these other things to keep them moving. Pardon me, I've got to fly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's great that we're going to do some of the work and save ourselves quite a bit of money, probably, if other people don't mind doing it too.
You don't want to spend money on that.
Yeah. And we'll get better acquainted with the place too.
That's right. That would help.
Well, the other thing is that the detail, some of the stuff that I put in the thing I sent to him on the entrance room, some of that detail already exists and I can fill out a little bit more in order that it maybe moves along on some of these other things. The preservation plan, people read it and then they don't go back and look at the rest of what's in it afterwards. And there is an awful lot of that detail in there already.
Can we take a 2 to 5 minute break just to, I need to go and get some more paper and I need to check on one thing. Would anybody mind if we took a little gap between?
Yes, go ahead, Janet. I'm just going to
anybody else
5 minutes,
do that?
5 minutes, which would be 10:20.
Okay.
Perfect. Give us all time to run to the bathroom, I guess,
Well, and also to kind of reboot because we're going to talk about different things this time.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old to just forge through everything all at once.
I want to mention that the spinning wheel behind Janet is a collection item.
Yes, it is. I have yet to make it work very well. It's got an interesting, great big bolt running through the wheel area. And
Yeah.
I think we may have to play with it a little bit.
I
more
think
than I am.
that may
I've
need to be replaced by somebody who understands the use of the wheel better.
Yeah, and the other thing is I have access to 2 other ones up in our attic. So one of them is in pretty good shape and I've used it. So if we do have a spinning program of some sort, and then I have one at my house in Connecticut too that works well. So we don't need to worry about it. But it would be nice to get this one fixed up if we could.
Yeah.
I'll work on it at some point.
Stand up.
Thank you. That makes a difference. Got my paper.
Mostly you want the mixture to come to cover beans. Yeah.
June? Ready to go again?
Yes, thank you. Do we want to go through our minutes?
We can. There. Let me see if I.
It's harder on Zoom, but
Yes, we can. I didn't actually even make a copy of the the only reason I was being a little hesitant is that I sent some of them out. The ones that you and I worked on together got sent out late last night. So I don't know if it's really fair to ask people to, unless we want to just sit and read them for a few minutes.
Those are the two that I read, so.
Yeah, the September 8th and the August 23rd are actual things to read. The others are very short. So I'll leave it up to you guys whether you want to take a minute now and just, the trouble is if they're on your computer, you can't really scan through them right now anyway.
And what June did for addenda from the last meeting after you had to leave.
Yeah.
Are fine, and they're kind of important because it includes the decision about the entrance thing, and that we already discussed with Dan today.
How do people feel? Do you feel that you're ready to vote on whether to accept the minutes or not have a chance? And don't feel funny if you didn't have a chance.
I haven't had a chance to read them.
You haven't?
No.
Oh. Did you get to read any of them or?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so a couple of them, maybe we'll just vote to approve or not the ones that everybody has read. So Lucy, which ones did you read?
Well, honestly, I think I'm gonna have to get another email address because by the time I have to go through 50 junk mails before I finally get to them.
Yeah, I know that.
So I read the Bullard House design thoughts, Barry's Bullard backyard, and then I started reading the more minutes, but I didn't get through them all. So
June, what do you want to do?
We can wait. We can approve the addendum, which is pretty important because of the progress we've made today. So if you want to approve the addendum, we can approve the rest of
I did. For some strange reason, it was so late last night, I forgot that I was not going to have access to my computer right now. So I didn't write the addendum out. I didn't type it out. So I can't read it unless I get off.
To because I sent it to everybody.
I know. I don't know if they've had a chance, because it came out very late.
Well, oddly enough, that's what I've read.
Okay. Shall we postpone the approval of the minutes until the next meeting?
I move we approve the addendum if people can decide, if the others are willing to do it.
Would somebody like to read it out loud? Who has it?
On a screen share? Yeah, I can read it.
Screen share. You have to read the whole.
Share it because I don't think. Let's see.
I can read it. I have it on my screen.
Okay, Lucy, good.
I can put. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to read the original one too, or just the addendum. I think it's the addendum that you were interested in, June.
Yeah, I have the addendum, and I can actually, go in and get it. All I do, if you do Alt Tab, you can go to a different screen. But anyways, I'll read the addendum if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. So addendum to the Berlin Historical Commission minutes for October 6th, 2023. June Miller reviewed her telephone conversation with architect Dan Barton before our 10 a.m. meeting. Dan advocated strongly for focusing on entrance accessibility design, which would in turn inform the scope necessary for topographic survey by Ross Associates. Moving ahead with the foundation/drainage rehabilitation by T.F. Moran should also be expected, as well as a determination of the placement of an additional septic tank should it be found to be feasible. These should be accomplished over the next 2 months. Commission members agreed that the existing accessible entrance at the east end of the Bullard House should be pursued as the building's accessible entrance, and that the Bullard House lawn area would not be used for parking. There was also agreement that ingress and egress through the back door and annex door are desirable. It was agreed that a Zoom meeting would be scheduled at 9 a.m. with Dan Barton on October 13th before our regularly scheduled monthly meeting at 10 a.m. The meeting was adjourned at 12:30 p.m. Respectfully, June Miller, Chair.
I move to approve.
Second the motion.
Who seconded?
Lucy,
Lucy,
Yeah.
thank you.
and we've lost June. I've got to get her back on.
And the first was Barry.
There's June.
June's back.
Thank you.
What?
I made a goof, and that's why I got bounced off. It was my fault. So all those in favor of approving the addendum,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, unanimously approved. So we'll just defer the other ones, which you all have now, until our next meeting, our next regular meeting. I think I'll defer the financial update because I'm not sure I can screen share it.
Well, there isn't very
was-
much change, is there?
No, well, there's $621 to Ross Associates.
That we pay.
That we pay, yeah. I don't know if it's actually gone out, but we approved payment. And since the last time, and then there was a small bill from Mogul for about $200 and something. So it's close. It's not too far off from the last time. The big thing that we need to discuss is a demolition delay issue.
Yeah.
39 Sawyer Hill Road has a building permit for demolition of the residence. That's what the building inspector told me. The word they use is residence. So according to Richard, a building permit has to be pulled for each structure. And that is the only one that's been requested. But the intention is to demolish all the buildings on the site. In talking to Tim Wheeler, he made me aware that that barn, that English barn on the property, is an 1815 barn, and we should probably have another look at that. Barry, do you want to go through the discussion about significance of this residence?
Let me say about the barn that when the day that June and I went over and went through the house with the owner, I went through the barn with her, and I suggested to her that, you know, even if she was building new stuff, that this could be a useful structure, and that the neighbor, Bud Haworth, is a guy who works on posted beam structures and could do any work on it that might be needed. At any rate, on the house, I think that at a previous meeting, I gave you all the research I'd done on the house.
Yes.
Does that ring clear to you? And it really is a very, I think, a very significant place, and it is, it's documented quite well with tax records that it was built in 1841, as was the house across the street. The two brothers apparently built new houses the same year, and the older house had been on the site of this one, and they'd all lived and farmed together prior to that time. I don't know. I don't know what more I want to say about it, except that it's been there all that time and was in the Wheeler family almost all of the time until the recent sale. There was about 10 or a dozen years around the beginning of the 20th century that the Otteson family lived there. And they bought the place, and then they resold it to another Wheeler family, another part of the Wheeler family, and which was Henry's grandfather. So there'd been 3 or 4 generations there since the Ottesons in our time. But the house, I mean, to me, the house wasn't in bad shape, but you know, it's an old moldy cellar. It's got knob and tube wiring all through it. It hasn't had the wiring updated much of any, and a variety of other things like that make the new owner say tear it down. And of course, the real estate people have been selling it almost as a tear down anyway. So we have that to contend with. But to me, it's very significant, and the families that have lived there have been important and influential families in the town, particularly, you know, the Wheelers and the Wheelers way back and the Wheelers more recently. Henry was selectman and police chief and etc. And Ruthie was you know, involved in a lot of town government things, as well as other community things, and was long-term police dispatcher. And they ran the police department out of that house for all through the time that Clifford was chief, and for the first few years that Henry was. They just ran the whole thing from the house before they had the office at the town hall. So there's lots and lots of things that make it a significant place. It also had on the property a huge greenhouse at one point, the foundations for which are still there, but the greenhouse has been taken down over the years when they weren't using it anymore. They had the greenhouses, plus the next generation back had all the greenhouses on the hill at 31 Sawyer Hill Road, where Kevin has been in later years. And that was those 2 farms that were both in the same family really were doing an awful lot of greenhouse growing, early vegetables as well as flowers over many, many years. So there's plenty of significance there. There's wonderful 4 panel doors and other things in the house, and features. There's a couple of good fireplace frames. The fireplaces appear to be extant in most cases, though they've been covered over to a degree. I don't know. I can go on and talk some more, but why bother? One of the things that also I found interesting, and I was a little surprised by, is that the attic is also finished rooms. So there have been numerous times when there have been 2 generations of adults living in the house, two families essentially, and I imagine that's how the attic spaces got finished off, was more rooms for more kids. But June, do you have any other things that you'd want to say about it?
No, just that I'd like to see the barn, and anybody else who wanted to view it, we could post a meeting if necessary.
I'd like to.
I would too.
It's an old style. It's the one, just like the one
English
we have at
barn,
my
yeah.
house.
Yeah.
In Connecticut.
It's an 1841 Greek Revival period house, they were Quakers. So a lot of the architectural detail is kind of understated. There was a porch on the side toward the driveway, which had beautiful fat fluted Greek columns on it. And that was the one high style thing that was there for the Greek Revival period. That porch succumbed, I don't know, sometime I think since I was around, but I don't remember it very well. I was still fairly young. I think Clifford took it off. But we do have some pictures of the house that have that on it, and that is another thing that was an architectural item which is no longer there. But there's a lot remaining there. It's a perfectly lovely house to fix up, and there are rooms there that could be just as nice as Louise Woodhead's front rooms if they were redecorated appropriately. So I don't know. If you're ready to, I would make a motion that we declare that it's historically significant and set a public hearing.
Would that include the barn or not?
No,
Not
because
yet.
there's no permit out for that yet.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion to declare 39 Sawyer Hill Road residents historically significant. Is there a second?
June, just so we all understand, and especially me, so the historically significant means that we will have a hearing on it. Is that what that
That's
means?
right.
Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't declare it one way or the other, just that we'll have a hearing. Okay.
No, it
It's just
declares
the
it
first step.
significant. It's the
Mhm.
first step. Then we have a public hearing,
Yeah.
and depending on what kind of participation we have at the public hearing, then we have to decide if it's preferably preserved, in which case it's a 6-month delay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
and Ellie, and
Aye.
Lucy,
So-
and June, aye. Okay,
I have a
unanimously
question now.
approved.
So if we want to, so what do we do to get the people of the town interested in this? I think we need to do something, make some kind of announcement somewhere, and I'm not sure where yet. So that I'm just bringing it up now. So that we get more people interested in coming to any meeting that we have with regard to this building.
The reality of it is that most of the time, if we just put the notice in the paper, we don't get anybody.
Right.
It's important to get the word out to people that this is under consideration and so on. And that can be done, it can be done through Facebook and Berlin Neighbors Connect, and it can be done, we can put it out from the Historical Society, can put out a reminder to people that this is happening. The commission can put out, there's the regular public notice that'll go in My Town Government and on the bulletin boards, but you really have to get out there and tell people about it so they know, and particularly some of the neighbors in that part of the town, so that we get, if we have 20 or 30 or 40 people come to the hearing and they express interest and concern about it, well, then that's the kind of a basis that you do the other thing on. Otherwise, the question is it something that's of public concern? And I would suspect this one would get a lot of interest in that regard.
I can work on doing that, getting those notices out to different places. Maybe when do you think that the meeting would be held?
Hearing,
Yeah, the hearing, sorry.
Yeah.
When would the hearing be held? What's our time frame?
All right, time-wise, if we go with holding it on a Friday so that we can put the notice in the Clinton item and keep the cost of the notice down, then we would be having a hearing. We get the notice in the beginning of this coming week, and but it won't get in the paper for a week after that.
Mhm.
Now, this is the 13th. The 20th is next Friday. It wouldn't get in the paper for Friday. It would get in for the 27th and the first Friday
The
in
3rd of November.
November would be the 3rd. So those would
Yep.
be the two notices. So it would be the 10th of November.
Okay, all right. Oh, shoot.
But Barry, it has to be within 30 days of what?
Of
I-
this meeting, I think.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so
I
November
believe it's
10th, that
the-
would be within 30 days.
What-
I learned of this request only yesterday.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday. Was it Wednesday?
Yeah, I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday.
Because I talked to you about it on Wednesday.
Yeah, but we have 14 days to hold our meeting, which we're now holding on it.
Hmm.
And then we have, I think you're right. I think it's 30 days. I'd have to go back and look at the bylaw. But I think we'll be, if we had it November 10th, we're within the 30 days.
Oh, good. So, Barry, can we get together sometime, or Barry and June, or whoever wants to get together, just to talk about the house and its significance? You know, just add more and do an article. Maybe we can get it out on the Potter House News and, you know, up on the websites too, very shortly.
Yep.
Okay. What's a good time for you? So I don't want to let this go too long.
Well, today and tomorrow are just awful. Very busy day. After that, okay.
Let's see. How about Monday, the 16th?
I think that's okay.
Okay.
What time of day?
My day's open.
And it would be just two people, no more than two people, right? Unless we want to have to post it.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So,
I will be away, so you don't have to worry about me.
and I trust you and Lucy if you want to be the ones that do it. And then we don't have to have another posted meeting.
Yeah, and then we can tell other people what we come up with and
Yeah.
Yeah.
let other people do what you can do also. The big thing is to get some people to come to the public hearing and
Exactly.
and come and say it's important to save this house. That basic kind of statement.
I have to
and,
say, I'm getting tired of people coming in, buying property, and then tearing the house down in this community. Really kind of upsets me. But
But
anyways,
honestly, is there a lot we can do if they want to go ahead with it? I mean,
We can
unless
delay
we
it
move
for
the
6
house
months.
intact.
the 6 months is to try to do some work to either convince them not to do it in, or to find somebody that might move it.
Yeah.
And bluntly, 6 months isn't enough to do it in. I mean, the reality is no.
But
We have-
6 months is enough time to document it as well as we can so that we can save the information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't save the structure, we can save the information.
Yeah. Okay.
and again, I'd try to pull some woodwork out of it, at least, if it's gonna go. Then I have the problem of what do I do with it when I save it, but that's life.
you know, I
Um,
looked up a
Probably,
while ago.
since
I
it's
looked-
only been Barry and myself who have gone through it recently, would you like a meeting to be posted so that everyone can have another look?
Yeah,
Would
I
you
think
all
that
like to
would
go
be
through the house?
nice.
Okay, I can contact the owner and set up a meeting if you give me this would be at either the end of October or early November. You have
If
I would
a,
think we,
if it could be in the beginning of November, because I'm going to Arizona in November 7th.
okay,
for a
so you
week.
would want to go before the hearing?
I think that's valid that we would want to go before the hearing.
So that week, would you be back that week, a few days before the 3rd, Lucy?
I will be home on the 3rd for sure. I'm not leaving till the 7th, but I can be on Zoom. I'll bring my laptop and do Zoom.
Okay, I'm confused now. You're gonna go away
November
in
7th.
November?
Yeah, November 7th to the 14th.
Okay, so anytime before that,
Yeah,
okay, so, I'll talk to the owner and I'll ask for, her availability, that first, either the 30th, that would be the 30th through the 3rd of November,
yeah,
one of those days. Does that sound good?
yeah.
It could be
Okay.
sooner than the 30th too, couldn't it?
Yeah, or we could do it, we could try to do it. If Friday is always a good time, I don't know if it's a good time for her, but we could try to do it on the 27th, which is a Friday.
That would be good for me.
You want me to try to ask her for that?
Which day?
October
Jen?
27th?
Yeah.
Okay. And if not, I'll have to get back and come up with another time.
Mhm.
A mundane
So-
question. Lucy, you seconded the motion to declare it historically significant. Who made the motion?
I did.
Gary, I thought so. Thanks.
So I don't know if this is the time, but at one point I was doing a little bit of research online, and there are actually places that would come in and, take the architectural wood. They do architectural wood salvage. So if that's something that, rather than just have the whole thing demolished and thrown out, like they did it at a couple places, they just tear it down. Maybe someone could come in and salvage this wood and it's actually be reused for other,
Well, that's up to the owner, but I do have some information in that there are timbers in the barn that she would like to reuse. That is something that Richard Hanks knows about.
Okay.
So, and we, having been there that one time in the house, Barry and I certainly saw at least 2 fireplace surrounds that could be salvaged if she isn't going to reuse those.
Yeah. I can look into it if you want, just, find out what they
Well,
do.
I think you need to talk to her first. She's the owner.
No, I definitely, but, just, I think it would be good to just get scope it out a little bit before it actually, how do they go about doing this? How do they go about reclaiming this wood?
Now, the Kidder house, all that stuff was taken out of that house by that kind of a person.
Oh, good.
In that house, it was all gone, but when the house was torn down. So, I mean, yes, that's the case, but remember that means it leaves the town and it's gone and we'll never know what happened to it.
Yeah.
I really would want to get some samples to keep in the town if we could.
Mhm.
And given that we have to have a certain amount of restoration in the work that we do, if we want to get a grant from the state, in the work that we do in the Bullard House, we can always think about if she is looking for people to take some of these things, we shouldn't leave ourselves out of that picture necessarily.
Yeah. And then come the problem with the storage.
Well, no, I mean, if we're fixing the house up, the Bullard House, and we need something right on the spot, you know what I'm saying, for that project that we're actually going to be doing.
We have a similar
was
mantle
thinking.
frame. We have a similar mantle frame that's probably 10 years later that we got out of the Estabrook house.
Right.
And we've got, and the doors won't work in the Bullet house because they're too tall.
Yeah.
Um,
And it might be just kind of nice to be able to have something in there that came from
oh yeah,
that house, just even
Well-
for sentimental reasons too.
we've
Yeah.
got stuff in there already that came from Cora Mays, and there's a couple of more things that we expect to put in from there.
Yeah.
And that same kind of stuff can be done otherwise if it fits. And of
Mhm.
course, the Greek revival stuff fits in the part that was remodeled in the 1830s. However, that's where all the ceilings are very low, and a lot of the stuff
the
just
right
wouldn't
size.
fit in it. Wouldn't
Yeah.
fit in it. Yeah.
It's such a different, you know, house in terms of size.
Yeah. I mean, the Bullet House was an earlier house that had
Yeah.
changes made at that time. But that's part of the problem too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, is it all right to move along with the next? Okay.
Well,
Yes.
Um,
Fine with me.
do you want to
The
vote
next-
on the motion? You want to vote? Oh, did we vote on the motion?
I think
Yeah.
we did.
We did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, because I've got it down unanimous. Yeah.
Okay.
Lucy, I'm sorry that I did not get your voicemail in time to help you relocate the descriptions for the images.
I think they were on the
Sometimes-
thumb drive and I did not get them to download it, so I apologize for
Right,
that.
but you have a paper copy that you made.
I do, but I lost it. I can't believe it. I'm not sure where it is. So I would like, if I can make another copy of it, I'm going to start working on that again very quickly.
Okay, I'll try to send you, I'll try to find the electronic,
That would
so
be
that we
good.
don't, so that you don't have just a paper copy floating around.
That would be
um,
good because then I can just copy and paste.
Okay,
For the two of you, I don't know if you're using the computer in room 226, the town offices, but I contacted CM Geeks in regard to that computer yesterday, and because the browser there is Internet Explorer, and that's no longer supported, and it's running into trouble trying to use it on the internet now. So I asked him to put in either Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, and he said he was unable to put those in, but he has put in Firefox.
Okay.
So Firefox is now available as a browser on that computer, and I haven't worked with it yet, but that change has taken place, and I just wanted you to know about it. You
Okay.
might find that working better than Internet Explorer if you're using that computer.
Yeah. I had
do
started
you
working
wanna-
on mine, but I
you
will
want
go
to tell
down
the
there.
commission that, that you would like to put that information on your own computer so you can work on it without going to the town offices?
Yeah, and that's what I've started doing is it's on my own laptop so that I can work on it at home and
Fine.
take care. And I've got I'm working on Windows 11, so that would probably be better because I think that was on what, Windows 7 or something like that.
That's on Windows 7. That's part of the problem, is that's
Yeah.
a Windows 7 computer.
Although I think it could be updated, but I'm not going to be the one to do it, you know.
I think it could be, but I have had for some time, at least before, I had made a request that they replace it with one, when they change it in one of the other offices that's more up to date, that they switch that one off and get one that's more up to date. But it hasn't
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Okay. But I'll be working on my own. And there's some in terms of the website itself. I'm looking at that, and I've got a couple training sessions scheduled to go through some of the website and how to use all the functions of it, because there's a lot more functions in there that we could take advantage of it. And I've done some reading on my own, but I'd like to go through the training sessions, which are free. I just sign up for them and they're fine. You know, there's someone that talks and goes over some of
Great.
the stuff. So that's
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
going to
good.
do. And if
Okay.
we, you know, if anybody wanted to take a little bit of time, maybe we could redesign it a little bit and try and make it a little more user friendly.
That'd be
And
great.
I'm happy, Lucy, if you want to just go ahead with that and then show it to us.
perfect.
If we see anything that could be even better, we could let you know then, but I'm happy just to have you go with it.
Okay, and another question is, I noticed that you sent out a couple emails, or we talked about, you know, someone who's working on the town website. Maybe I could get in touch with who that is and you know, work something out for our site. Do you remember who that was? Is working with Kristen? Because Kristen was
I
asking
don't
about
know.
the
I don't know. I know that she asked Marty to if he would donate more photographs. Nothing has come of that. We asked her what she would want and she didn't get back to us, but I don't know who's working with her.
with Kristen.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you know, if you don't mind, I'd like to go down and talk with Kristen at some point and just
Yeah.
you know, since we're already working on the commission website, maybe we could integrate that a little bit better. You know, put some pictures on there. I don't know what Kristen is referring to and where she wants to put the pictures, but
Well,
you know,
you know, the website has a slideshow.
A
yeah,
banner at the front of the website.
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
And I'm assuming that she wants to add to that or
okay,
have new ones. But
yeah,
I
because
don't.
we can act that, and that sounds like that's a good idea. And you know, like we could have something like that on our site too. You know, you can have like a gallery of pictures showing, and I'd love to do that with the collection pictures and have that, you know, be able to be displayed. But I just have to learn how to do that. You know, it's a possibility for us to do. I just need to get a little bit more acquainted with the software.
Okay. Janet, do you want to give us a little update on, not an update, but a summary of your visit to Tohoto
Oh,
for a
yeah.
volunteer? It was a
Yeah.
volunteer fair.
They were the assistant principal at Tohoto is very interested in students getting out into the community and volunteering, or in the case of one of the students that we've already started to work with, it would be I haven't Barry. Who's been working with him most? Is it you, June?
I don't think it has anything to do with Tohoto. It's just an Eagle Scout project. I mean,
It's an Eagle
we
Scout. Yeah.
may attend Tohoto, but
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know
well,
that.
and I think a lot of them will be like that, that it won't be done by the school. It will be, they're sort of the go-between to help people set up their projects. And so the first, in any case, we had a open house, and I didn't, let me think, what would be the best way to, I think there were about five tables of people from different different groups in the community who were present. Needless to say, Evie was one of them with her things, and a couple of others from Berlin were there. And the kids, you know, it was an after school thing. So it was kids who were doing sports and came in after sports and looked over the exhibits. I put an exhibit up about using a lot of artifacts. So they looked those over. Interestingly enough, one of the most looked at things were the old newspapers. And, you know, the big headlines, giant headlines, atomic bomb dropped in Japan. And, you know, I was interested that's what one of their greatest interests was. But some of them signed up for things that they might like to help with related to history in the community. And what pleased me the most was the fact that the assistant principal is interested in sort of organizing organizing it and matching up kids with projects. So it isn't something that we necessarily have to take that part of it on. But we definitely, and Lucy and I are working together on this. And so Lucy, you're there.
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. I see you up there now. You know, I think between the two of us, we probably will be able to connect fairly frequently with the assistant principal, just to make sure she knows that we're here and that, you know, we're interested. And then we may have people that we connect with, and it will work in the other direction. It's pretty loosely organized, I think, in terms of what kids might be able to do to help. And a lot of kids, they like the outdoor work. Yeah, we'll come and rake the leaves, you know. So we have to keep that in mind too. It's a wide range of things that they're willing to help with.
I believe that
Okay.
Tohoto now has a requirement for graduation.
Oh,
That
yeah.
Kids do certain amount of community service. And some of this is related to that.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We have several smaller things. One is Barry and I met with Soren Gaisford, who is the Eagle Scout project young man. I think the thrust of his project is really making the history of the buildings that we chose with him accessible. Not so much that he has to research the information, because that would be unmanageable, I think, for a young person with all their other commitments in the time frame that he has. But the QR code and the actual stations in front of the buildings would be the focus of his work. And I need to send him just a short list of who he should contact for each building. Barry, do you remember the 5 buildings? It's First
Well, the 5
Parish.
sites: the meeting house, the town hall, the board house, the burying ground, and the store.
And the store. Okay. So he wants to work in the center, not South Berlin. So we negotiated that.
He would essentially put up some kind of a plaque or a
Pedestal.
standing thing on a post that would have some identification of the building on it, and a code that you can read with a cell phone, so that you can access more information about it. And he'd put those the files and pictures together to go there, and it might well be a video that you could access on your cell phone. And so that's his concept, is that, you know, 5 or 6 sites in the center of town that you could that he'll come and get information out of our files and so on, and make up some form of thing that people can view on their cell phone, and get some background about the place they're looking at.
His project actually hasn't been approved yet. Barry, I forwarded you the navigation sheet. Did you get that?
I don't remember that one. I remember you
Well-
had it, but I don't know that I've seen it. I'll have to go look and see if there's an email I didn't read.
Okay.
What's involved with approving his project? Because we did I think we did a vote, didn't we, on that?
We approved it, but it hasn't been approved by the Boy Scout Council yet.
I see. Okay.
But we did our part,
Yeah, we did.
and we've offered various bits of aid, and as June says, who to contact about the sites and so on. I mean, you know, we'll be the contact on 2 or 3 of them ourselves. So
You know, the
but,
one thing that I'm going back for a minute here to the Tohoto program. The one thing that I had sort of forgotten until I started to think about it is that we have kids in that school that are from a lot of different towns, from different, I don't know how many, but for example, one of the boys that I was talking with is from Clinton. And so, you know, some of his interests may be in doing something that relates to his hometown as opposed to his school town. So we'll have to see how that all shakes down. But I thought that was interesting. It's a nice way to kind of unify the region, not just the one school.
oh yeah, and
Yeah.
he's got good access there with the president of the Historical Society in Clinton is Terry Engano, that's a former superintendent of schools and principal of the high school over there. So
Yeah, so that's nice to know too.
At our last meeting, Barry suggested that we visit the Northborough Historical Society. And not only their display, but also their storage area. And I did contact Ellen Racine, who is their curator. I think that's her title.
I think so.
And she can see, I suggested the last week of October, because I couldn't do it any sooner. And I also know that that's the end of their visiting time, the end of October. So she said any afternoon, Tuesday through Thursday. So if you want to, I can get back to her with either Tuesday or Thursday. Wednesday doesn't work for the commission because Barry and I try to keep that curatorial building open.
June, what are the actual dates on that?
That would be the 24th or the 26th in the afternoon.
Of October?
Yeah, I don't think she meant to include the 31st, which is also a Tuesday and the very last day of October. But I could
Halloween.
ask her that if it makes a difference to everybody.
It's also Halloween, whether that matters or not.
Yeah. Will the 24th or the 26th work for people?
Check my
Well-
calendar.
Both work
I
for
would-
me too.
Yeah, either one works for me.
As of right now, I think either one works for me.
Fourth works for me. The 26th would have to be in the afternoon.
Yeah, I think she wants us in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But if the 24th is more, is less cluttered.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
24th should be
So-
all right.
Yeah, 24th.
24th.
Yeah.
Okay, October 24. And what time? You want me to suggest like 1:30 or 2 or
Sure.
Or one.
1 even?
Yeah.
All right, and if that's, if she needs to have it later, then can we manage that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll keep that open.
okay. So that'll be a posted meeting. The other thing on the agenda is the Hop House. I will say that Walter has tried very, very hard to find a way to have the tree that is threatening the Hop House removed. And he has finally gotten a commitment from National Grid to remove the limb that is the most threatening part of that tree over the house. And it's he really is very persistent, and I gotta hand it to him. He really tried a lot of ways to figure out how to make that happen. So he's succeeded, at least in this very first part of keeping that house up, upright. And
That's
that's
good.
all I have. Yes, it is good. I think, I don't know if I reported to you that Walter and I met with Bud and his wife Carrie. I'm trying to think now what day that was. It was just for a short time. And he basically he wants it to be he wants it to be preserved. He doesn't have any wish to have it relocated for preservation. He wants it to stay on his own property. He expressed a concern that he not be told what to do with it. So even though the interior of it should be at least cleaned out temporarily so that you could document it, I'm not sure that that would happen. So we've gotten this far, and maybe we'll get a little further with him.
Does it have
Have
a
any
roof
idea?
on
Oh,
it?
sorry.
Is the roof intact at this point?
The roof actually is not that old. He replaced it himself. I'm not sure how many years ago, but less than 10 years ago.
Good.
So, I mean, the roof has a little bit of a sag in the middle, but I think that's
Oh, it's
because
not a problem.
it's the ridgepole is old. So, yeah.
Do you have any idea what he intends to use it for, or just continue using it as it is now?
He just he puts salvage in it
Okay.
because of the work he does. He's got windows and timbers, odd things that I cannot see from the outside.
Mhm.
We're mostly concerned with preserving the structure and hopefully preserving some of the unusual characteristics of it, like the spaces between the floorboards and stuff that were there so that the smoke could go up into the upper part of the house to
Yeah.
deal with the hops and so on. Other than that, I mean, it's a private property thing. We just don't want to see it go to ruin.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are other things like that have plenty of them. So not other hop houses, but that happens to be the great thing that's left from that whole industry from the 19th century.
It might be, I don't even know if Bud would attend, but it might be worth it to have Hop House, the Hop House importance to Berlin and other communities during that early time. As a History Matters program, unless you wanted to do it as a historical society program, because I don't think there's much awareness. Certainly I was made aware of it by Bill Wheeler, and if he hadn't, I might not even know what it was unless somebody else took the time to tell me.
I think it would be great to have it be one of those programs, and maybe having it be the society program, a little bit bigger, draw a few more people, and just give us plenty of time to do some research and take some pictures.
It might be, I think that Walter would help with a program. I'm always looking for, good things to do at History Matters. So I'm happy to help plan that, but I don't necessarily want to take it away from the society or we could have a joint meeting.
I think it could be a society meeting. It's, we have a written paper on the subject of the hop industry that was written by Henry Arthur Wheeler, who lived in that house and owned the hop house. And the hop house was used by his father in the growing and use and the business of hops. And but that written paper is, it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 pages typewritten. double
Agree.
space.
Yeah.
It's
Agree.
not awful long, but it really does give a sense of the industry and what was going on with it. And um, there's not an awful lot to add to that I know of. The other thing we need to do is document it well, which June was just mentioning, and we haven't done that really. And while we knew about it and so on back when we did the surveys, the structure survey, and I thought we dealt with it, but I found that it doesn't seem to be there. So it should be
Well, it's not-
documented and put on the state MACRIS list. It should be. We should do one of those documentary forms on it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, I'll work
Um,
on trying to move forward on being able to get inside. Because right now, that's
he
not
sounds like-
accessible.
He sounds like the kind of person right now, or where he's at in his thinking, I should say, that pushing hard probably isn't the best approach for him,
That's
I
right.
don't think. Do you agree with that? But just, continuing
Well, that's
the
certainly,
thread of an
yeah,
interest.
certainly Walter's approach. In talking to Walter throughout these last few months, he said it's just keep on it,
Yeah,
but you can't overwhelm him because
right.
that
yeah.
won't work. Yeah.
And it's just two guys getting together to talk about the Hops House,
Yeah.
Walter and what's his name? Yeah.
Bud
Why did I
Hallworth.
forget his name?
Bud
Bud Howard.
Bud. I knew it was a real short name.
Robert.
Walter Bud, yeah.
But I
I
mean,
can
Bud's
see the two of
business,
them
Yeah.
shooting the
Bud's
breeze
business.
about it, and
Bud's business is restoration.
Well, it's a
of
little
I
more
know.
submerged
focused than
buildings.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, he did that new barn that we have. Yeah, post and beam.
yeah.
He's busy.
Yeah.
He has he took the time to show me pictures on his phone of the work that he's done at the Wayside Inn on a cider mill
Yeah,
and another huge project that he I'm not sure where now, but he's
maybe you should
He's
get
working.
him to do a History Matters program. I don't know if would want to do a program, but you don't do that
Oh,
kind of
on
work
his-
without
on his
knowing
work.
history.
yeah. Did he do one? He did one for the society long time ago, didn't he?
Oh, did
I
he?
think so. I think
Yeah.
he did a long time ago
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. If I remember it, it has to be 20 years or less because I wasn't here
Yeah.
before that.
There's a new batch of people. Maybe we could interest them in all of these preservation, activities.
Yeah. Well, the hop house, and there's all the microbreweries. I mean, there's an interest in craft beer brewing, and I would
Yeah.
think we could capitalize on some popular culture there.
Yeah, and some beer.
And maybe some beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. I did work with Ellie on the CPA information that we need for their report. And that's what I was going to show you as a financial update. But what I'll do instead is just forward that to you. Ellie already has it, of course, and Maureen, who works for the CPA committee, she has it as well. So I'll just send it to you, and you'll get a sense of where we
Great.
are.
Thank you.
June, we also had, in regard to demolition, we had two others that were referred to us. And I'm not too sure about those permits in terms of what they absolutely encompass. But they apparently
Me neither.
involve some demolition, and I don't know what. One of them
Yeah.
is 187 South Street, which is down in Pine Needle Acres. And that is a house. See, one of the problems we've got now is our demolition delay bylaw talks about things that are 50 years old. Bailey Road and Brigham Road are now 50 years old. And so stuff that's in places like that, we've got loads and loads of things now that may come up, which are probably of little interest to us. But at the same time, they are, could be valid. The house involved was where Herb and Sandy Tufts lived before they passed away last year. And it's a little Cape style house that was built in the around 1970 or something, in the 60s perhaps. And I don't think it's really of any interest to us as a preservation issue. And the other one is 247 Linden Street, which was Pulsifer's place. And there is a little old house frame in the midst of that someplace, which I've witnessed a little bit of when they had it all torn apart when Pulsifer's were there. But I don't, again, that has been so gommed up and added onto and gone crazy that I have, from my point of view, there's nothing significant there.
Which house is that again?
Pulsifer on Linden Street.
Okay, Pulsifer. Okay.
47.
Yeah, I've been in that.
247.
I was in that house when the Pulsipers lived there, and they really went through the whole house and pretty much redid it. There's very little left of the original.
And added on.
Yes.
Added on greatly.
Yes.
When I was young, that was a little bit of a house
Mhm.
that the Laportes lived in.
Yeah.
And I will say this, it was not a distinguished house. It was just a little house. And but at this point, I think they completely gutted it when the Pulsifers were there and rebuilt that part.
It was.
And,
It was
and
gutted.
then- so there's probably some frame left of that was a house from the 19th century. But I don't think there's anything there of value from our point of view, historic preservation wise. And so I would like to, I haven't read the building permits to know exactly what's involved. But I would like to move that 187 South Street and 247 Linden Street be declared as not significant.
Are they tearing the whole house down or just?
I don't
portion-
know that. I don't know.
I don't know.
But it
Yeah.
makes no difference. There's nothing
When you
significant in
receive,
either one.
when you receive the notifications for the building permits,
Yeah.
do you actually get to read the building permit?
Yeah, I can get in there and read all the stuff from the building permit. I don't
You
always
can
get
do
the
that
paper.
you can do that on your
I can do
computer?
it I can do it electronically when I get in there, yeah. And I will look at those further, but I'd like us to record a vote in regard to it, and then it means we have addressed it.
Yeah,
If
well-
it come up later.
The time has lapsed considerably on both of those, so.
So
Well,
Barry,
I'll second the motion, Barry.
where do we stand with this demolition thing on these two houses? What goes into the minutes for that?
We declare them
Very
as not,
moved.
You've already taken, but did we
we
vote on it?
declare them as not significant,
Do we
not
need to vote on
historically
it?
significant.
No,
Yeah,
we haven't. Barry made the motion and I seconded it.
Okay,
All
I
those in
missed that.
favor?
okay.
Barry,
Aye.
Aye. So Barry,
June, aye. Janet, aye.
yeah,
And-
aye.
Lucy, I.
And Lucy, aye. Okay, unanimously approved to declare 247 Linden Street and 187 South Street not historically significant.
and then I just go in on the website and post that the project can go through without without any further action from us. And
Will
I
you
always
send, do you have time to send a letter to Richard Hanks and to the owner that we have declared 39 Sawyer Hill Road historically significant.
Yep, that's part of what has to be done, and I'll do that.
Okay.
The bigger thing is I've got to get it posted, I've got to get it posted immediately over the weekend, or certainly by Monday, so that it gets into the paper when it needs to.
Yeah.
Do you want someone to help you with that, Barry?
Mostly I want somebody to kick me in the backside on it.
Well,
Oh,
we'll
well,
be
I won't
meeting
be
on
home.
Monday.
No, I'll do
Barry,
that.
Lucy, you have to be the one because I'll be
Yeah.
away.
We're meeting on Monday, Barry, so I'll be happy to kick you in the backside.
There you go. There you go. That's
What
good.
time do you want to meet? Now that we're
Um,
back on that topic. 10, 1?
Why don't we try 10?
Okay, and at the curatorial building?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, that would be good because that permit came in on the 28th of September,
Yeah, that one's the one that's got the big problem on
and
time.
I only learned of it on Wednesday.
Sheesh.
And so I really
Monday meet
pushed
with Lucy.
by calling Richard Hanks to let him know that we would act today.
Yeah.
Because
I'll-
there's
I'll try to get the letter out to him immediately.
okay, okay, thank you.
Is Lucy, what are we meeting for on Monday, just so I remember?
The 39, to do a write-up on 39 Surrey Hill
Oh, okay. All right.
for the significance.
Yeah.
You will that go into the next Powder House News?
I'm
Because
gonna
it would
try. I'll try.
they need it by, do they, well, maybe if they know it's coming, they'll
Well, let me check
spell
with
you.
Laurie. Laurie or yeah, I'll check with Laurie or Veronica. Veronica, Victoria.
If
I'll check with
because the 15th is Sunday, actually, which is when they like things to be given
Yeah.
to them, but maybe she could spell
When
you a
does-
day or so.
When does
Yeah.
that come out? When does that
November,
come out?
December, comes out right before the beginning of November.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we'll have to do
All right.
some quick
It
work.
should work. It should work so that people would hear about it before the hearing.
Yeah. All right. So
Are we
I
done?
think-
I think we've covered everything.
Did okay.
Well, I think what we need to do, which is a very good suggestion from Janet, is just to identify some action items very quickly. One, I'll give you a couple that I'm supposed to do, and that is, I don't know, as we agreed, but do you want me to contact Mass Save for the Bullard House?
yes.
Okay. Everybody
let me
else
know.
okay with that?
June.
I guess
Okay,
so.
the
I
second thing
don't,
I'm supposed,
my
go
only
ahead.
question would be about scheduling, about when in our whole business, but I guess why not anytime is fine.
okay.
This is sort of
so
an informational call to find out.
they come and do an assessment. I don't think they
Yeah.
actually do anything. Not the
Okay.
first time, anyway.
They
Okay.
come and examine the place and prepare an assessment and recommendations. And then the results of, if you go ahead with it, you get some reimbursement on it.
And so
Okay,
you'll go
the
ahead
second-
and ask for that, June?
Yep.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wants to. The second thing is
I'm also gonna pipe up to Eloise and about that and the Energy Committee. I don't think there's any issue there, but I just wanted to, because they really, they delve into some of this stuff more and know more about the whole aspects of energy conservation stuff.
So what are you saying? We should be asking her about it first?
No, I'm just saying I'm going to do that so that maybe she'll have something to suggest about it all, that's all.
Okay.
There's no reason to wait on it.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, I got it. The second thing I'm supposed to do is to contact the owner of 39 Sawyer Hill Road and ask her if we can visit
For a site visit, right?
on October 27th, which is a Friday. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and if that's not doable, then I'll get right back to you. And then the third thing is that I can get back to Ellen Racine at the Northborough Historical Society for our visit there on the 24th. And that is scheduled for 1 o'clock. And are there at least 3 of us who want to go there so that I should post it?
I would like to go.
I would too.
Yes.
Okay,
I'd
so
say we
everyone
got
wants
at
to
least-
go.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, post it.
Okay. Okay, so that's the Northborough Historical Society. Okay, is there
Yeah.
anything else? Barry needs to act on the demolition delay
Yep.
issues. And Lucy and Barry will meet to put together some information about 39 Sawyer Hill Road that can be put out there in the Powder House News and elsewhere.
Yep.
Janet, have you reminded Paul Maney about giving us an estimate?
I read somewhere that you had done that. Where did I read that?
No, I asked you.
Okay, but I was
Call him.
about to do it, and then I thought I saw it in. It wouldn't have been minutes. What would it have been? But you still want me to be the one that calls him. I'm happy to do it.
You
I
will.
just
Yep. Yep.
okay.
It's just a reminder to send us an estimate.
Yeah.
On the removal of the stuff from the
I'll
basement.
remind him. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing I've already done because I had to was to get in touch with Jonathan Nadeau. He is an engineer with TF Moran, and he needs to come on Friday morning this coming week to measure the foundation, to do measurements on the foundation. And I
Does
told
he
him
know
I would.
this?
Does who know this?
Does he know he's coming? You said he has to come. Or are you
Yes,
saying we're going to
that
Well,
ask?
I
date is
shouldn't have
made.
said it that way. He asked to come. He asked for me
Oh,
to
ask.
schedule a time.
Okay.
He asked for
Okay.
me to schedule a time.
Right. I thought you said has to, and that's why
Well, I
getting-
probably did.
I'm
but
getting
that's
a little
not-
mixed up with my
that's-
hearing aid here to this
Yeah,
morning.
that's not what I should have said. Let's put it
Okay,
that
no,
way.
no, I just wanted to make sure we knew.
Yeah. So
Um,
he's going to come at 8:30, somewhere between 8:30 and 9 on Friday morning, which is the 20th. To
And
do that.
does he need contact before then? I mean, I could,
I already did that.
you did that,
Yeah,
okay.
got that.
Yeah, I did that.
No, we don't have to contact him again then, in other
No,
words.
this was all mentioned when we were talking to Dan earlier too.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to make sure we had it right and that we weren't
So I
missing.
just have to show up. And Barry, if you want to show up, I won't obligate you, but is there anybody else who would want to show up? I don't want to post it unless we
I mean-
need to.
Let me, oh, no, if we don't want to post it, then no, I don't need
No,
to.
I would say not.
I think the 2 of you can do it fine.
Do you want me to remind you about that, Barry, or you want to let that one go?
Yeah, probably a good idea. I also, and you also had a question or two you were going to ask him when he's there.
Yes.
That you talked about earlier. I think it was
Yes.
about what are the furnace and that stuff.
The removal issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one thing I neglected to mention earlier was that Tom Lamb got back to me and said the repointing of the west wall, they will fit that in, not to worry about that.
Okay, good.
Good.
Because that wasn't expressed in the proposal that we
Yeah.
signed off on, or Kristen signed off on. Okay, I think that's it. Is there anything else we all agreed to do? The packet, we'll all get that packet. And once we get the packet, he wanted, when did he want us to get back
Wants
to
us to
him
do
about that?
measurements. He wants us to do a lot of measurements.
Right, I know
And
that,
that we
but-
can do,
but
and
what-
as long as we have 2 people to do measurements at any given time, we can work our way through it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could just incorporate that on Friday when the engineer comes.
Well, we'll do some. We'll do some
do
then if
some.
we can.
What are you incorporating? The measuring or the, no, I'm sorry.
Measuring.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Measuring.
One of the
thinking.
things is
Um,
we'll get the measurements from him on the basement so that we can do the part that has to do with that for Dan on that
But
occasion.
Yes,
I'm assuming
That would-
everybody will participate in helping to measure things, is that right? Or are we saying just 2 at a time?
Just 2 at a
Well-
time, so you don't have to post meetings.
And,
I'll try to work that out with people.
okay, all right, June will work out with that.
But if Barry and I are able, we could start it with
Yeah.
the packet information, if we have it by then, when we have to be there for the engineer.
June, one of the things that as I glance at this too, some of the things that you signed up for, you do an awful lot of the contacting and stuff like that. And if other people aren't carrying as heavy a load, it might be nice sometimes if you didn't have to do it all. Now, this time Barry and Lucy are doing some of it and all. So I bring that up only because I hate to see you burn out. And you've got the Mass Save, you've got the owner at Sawyer Hill.
Well, that's why you've got Paul Maney on your list.
Yeah, I got Paul. The other thing is I do spend an awful lot of time on minutes and making sure I've got everything accurate. And that's because like this time we think we had 5 different ones that we had to do, and June grabbed 2 of the short ones for me because it's a lot. So if I look like I'm not volunteering for anything, that's part of it. But also I'm very happy to take on some of the stuff, June, that you think I could handle in terms of phoning people and that kind of thing. I think we all need to take on a little bit so that nobody has to do tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might ask Ellie to be more involved with the finances,
Okay.
if she's willing.
That would be great.
I have it pretty well organized so far, but has become pretty overwhelming for me. We'll say that. I've tried to adjust a couple of other promises that I usually try to keep so that I'm not responsible for them, just to make my schedule a little bit easier to manage. Okay, was there anything else?
What do you think, Ellie? I'm glad it's you and not me. I'm bad at that stuff.
Second that one, Janet. So you don't mind if I go in and talk to Kristen Rubin just a little bit about what she's looking for photographs
Um,
and plans for the website?
Well, for the website,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't know that it's our prerogative to do that as a historical commission.
No, how it'll affect our website, because it, if they're making changes. And that's the only thing, because if there's something that we can incorporate that would make our website better, our pages
Yep.
better, that would be good. That's kind of
Okay,
what I'm
well,
looking at from
yep,
that point of
no,
view.
that's all good.
I don't want to make
Lucy,
changes to the
Lucy,
main-
you were going to talk to her anyway about website issues and who to
Correct.
contact and all that. And so therefore, this would just be one more question you might ask something about.
Yeah, and
Don't worry about trying to deal with it if it's not an issue.
yeah, oh no, I'm not gonna worry, I don't worry about,
Yeah.
I don't care about the main website, the homepage, but just our own and how it will be affected and what we can incorporate, if anything.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good. That's good.
That sounds good.
Well, that's quite a few things. I think that's all of them.
When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting would be,
There's my book.
um,
I think it's
If
Northborough
it's a-
Historical Society, isn't it?
yeah, would be the Northborough Historical Society. If she, I'm pretty sure it will be fine with her because she suggested those days.
Yeah.
That would be 1:00 or a bit after on the 24th.
Yeah.
And then after that, we are hoping to meet at 39 Sawyer Hill Road on the 27th.
Then our next meeting would be, our next regular meeting would be on the 17th of November, is that correct?
No, I think it would be,
That
Second
seems
Tuesday-
too
the
late.
Second Friday, so it would be the 10th.
Okay. Crap.
be the 10th, that's right.
And that is the date I think that we've got for the public hearing. So that may be an evening meeting.
We could meet after, or,
I would think so. We can hold a hearing at 7 PM and then do our meeting continuing from that. Unless you want to hold the morning meeting, the usual morning meeting, and then just do the hearing that night.
I'm
I'd
happy to
support-
just combine them
Yeah, I'd like to combine them.
if other
Okay.
people are okay with that.
I'm gonna be away, but if I bring my laptop, I could do Zoom.
Well, we'll be meeting in person for the hearing.
I know.
Well, I don't know. Would you want to hold a hearing, virtually?
No, well.
Yeah, I don't
suppose we
have to be
could.
there. I don't have to be there.
I suppose we could, but if we're gonna have a regular meeting, I'm wondering whether we should try to do a hybrid. I don't know.
Isn't the hearing an open meeting for the community?
Yes.
So it's kind of awkward doing Zoom, isn't it?
Well, they certainly have done public hearings. There's been plenty of public hearings done
By Zoom?
Zoom.
by
Mhm.
Zoom.
Okay.
And then you just post it as a Zoom meeting, and people can come in that way. But I think it's good to have it in person.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm fine with doing our meeting after the hearing. And if it turns out it's really late, we could make a last minute decision and say, we'll only meet quickly and then we'll.
well, a hearing shouldn't take more than an hour, and in general, it's going to take about half an hour.
Mhm.
Doesn't take an awful long time.
What time does
And,
it start? Barry, what time does it
Well,
start?
I thought I'd post it for 7.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I think that's it.
In that case, I
I-
move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? All those in favor of adjourning, it is now 11:50.
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Aye.